So,
Like real.
Paul's letter to let's get started. We'll try to go with the first 15 verses. Hopefully get to it. Okay, so continuing with our study, Paul has been writing to the Corinthians, trying to encourage them, very concerned with them. And in the last chapter, we had Titus. Titus returns from the Corinthians. And what does Titus tell them? What does Titus tell them? Is that a good thing for Paul or bad thing for Paul?
He's got good news. He's got good news.
Good news. So the Corinthians have been taking care of their problems. And that's great news. So that's kind of where we're starting tonight. In verse 8 in chapter 8. Then chapter 8 is going to be about giving, generosity. We talk about generosity, love, a few of those things. Let's go to God in prayer. Holy God, we thank you so much for this time we have to study the writings of your Apostle Paul. We thank you so much for his insights into your mercy and your grace, and to understand how we need to apply this to our lives. And in the name of Christ, we come to you. Amen. Okay, so chapter 8, verse 1. Let's just read it. Okay, verse 1 of chapter 8. We want you to know, brothers, about the grace of God that has been given among the churches of Macedonia. For in a severe test of affliction, their abundance of joy and their extreme poverty have overflowed in a wealth of generosity on their part. For they gave according to their means, as I can testify, and beyond their means, of their own accord, begging us earnestly for the favor of taking part in the relief for the saints. And this, not as we expected, but by them, they gave themselves first to the Lord, and then by the will of God to us. Accordingly, we urge Titus, see that you excel in this act of grace also. Okay, what do we know about the the churches of Macedonia? What do we know about them as described here?
The only church that I think we can read about in Acts is the Philippian church is in Macedonia.
Okay.
And I don't know, just as he compares them to the Thessalonians.
Okay.
And that I think the Bereans were moral because they searched and proved that the scriptures, what he was being told, was true.
Okay.
And in contrast to the Macedonians, I think that those.
Okay, so what is this grace of God that's been given among the churches of Macedonia? What is this grace? What is grace?
Well, grace can be, it's an opportunity. Very seldom do people look at it giving to the work of the church as a grace. Think it as something else other than grace.
Mm-hmm.
So he calls it a grace, and hey, that's right, it is grace.
It is a grace. Good.
I mean, in this context, it's almost like the grace of God is a trait that the churches of Macedonia have inherited. But what he immediately goes on to say is how gracious they are being.
Yes.
And so it's that generosity. I think it's how we can understand grace here, because it's saying, God gave them this grace, and what he then goes on to describe is them eagerly wanting to share what they have.
Okay, so what we have here in verse 2 is we have, all right, I guess I'll have to. We have a severe test of affliction. probably didn't spell that right. That's all right. An abundance of joy. Thirdly, what do we have?
Extreme poverty.
Extreme poverty. What's the result of this?
Generosity.
Is that equal? Wealth of generosity.
Right. Huh.
Huh.
Doesn't usually add up like that.
I'm wondering if he's contrasting the condition in the Corinthians. They probably didn't have the affliction, the extreme poverty that the Macedonians did, and so he's almost shaming them into giving as they had promised that they would do.
Yep. Exactly right. I think that's exactly the condition.
The word liberality in my version, I think yours uses a different word, but the word I think can be rendered a singleness, and it's translated liberality because that's what the context is. But singleness is single-mindedness. That they are focused on what is right instead of just themselves.
Okay, Denise?
Today we would say they jump at the chance or jump at the opportunity. They saw this opportunity to help another church hundreds of miles away and they jumped. They were very excited to be able to help them.
Good point. Now, how do we think about that? I mean, you're talking about what? Sorry. Somebody, Mike's church fixed up. So how different are these people? How different? Do you compare the Jerusalem to Corinth? What do you see there? I mean, you say probably, well, at least a mixture of Gentiles and Jews. You see cultural differences, extreme cultural differences.
But they're one in the Lord. That's
But one in the Lord. They see through that, David.
But we're also seeing just a huge, the way changed their lifestyle. As you've got your slaves, your dirt poor folks, and your wealthy folks all blended into this one belief in Christ. And they're pooling resources and helping, each other, the Christian community in this case, which is where this abundance of joy, even those folks that have nothing are now without
That's right.
one. They have something because of other Christians in the faith that are pooling the resources they've been blessed with and sharing.
So, I'm not sure how different you could be. I mean, you're socially, obviously, economically,
Yes.
they've never even met.
culturally.
Yeah.
And they don't know these people. They don't know.
Except the fact that they know they have a common faith. That's
Yeah.
what ties them
That's
together.
exactly.
Well, just on the point of like they never even met them, they probably never could meet them. Like you don't just go from where Corinth is way over here in Turkey now
Yeah.
to Judea. You'd have to have a very good reason and quite a bit of resources and take a big risk to either take the long road by land or go by sea
Yeah.
to go and visit someone in this basically random place. They would never have any reason to have a connection with those folks. They would have no reason to ever expect to see someone from Jerusalem. It's hard for us to imagine because we could, if we wanted to, fly to Jerusalem tomorrow.
Yeah.
We could go see someone who lives over there right now,
Yes.
in 24 hours,
Yes.
if we really wanted to. They simply could not, and so they'd have to be on another planet for most of these folks, because it just was not attainable to have a real relationship with them. We take for granted how connected we are with people around the world. They didn't have that kind of connection.
I would think, how far would you want to walk in a day? without transportation,
There's
I
people
mean,
in
I
Africa,
wouldn't walk from here to my house.
there are people in Africa that walk several miles just to worship.
Okay,
I mean, they're doing that today
Yes.
because that's what they have to do.
that's what they do.
And they're willing, they don't, to them, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, they just-
But their world is, you know, you would never get out, I use Martinez, we could use Grovetown, you could use that, but you never would go from Martinez to Grovetown, you know,
They're walking.
I mean, walking and back. So just think how small, but again, that's what Christianity's about, with brothers and sisters all over the world, okay?
It's always amazes, maybe most people, it does me, when there's a need arise in another part of the world, and a congregation is asked, called upon to give extra for that need.
Mhm.
And it always surprises me, and maybe a lot of people, how much the congregations or people individually are willing to give of their means.
That's true.
And still to that day, I mean, in the Valley Church where we came through, and they tell us how much was collected for this particular need, it blows your mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. People are generous. Other thoughts on that?
Macedonia is up above Greece or Corinth.
Yeah, but Acacia.
For us, it takes about 6 hours and something to probably drive from Macedonia down to Greece. But walking,
You want to walk to North Carolina with me? Yeah.
To be there.
Or Virginia, in this heat?
That bear or something.
In this heat, yeah, so it'd be close. So what we see, with the generosity, there we go. For they gave according to their means, as I can testify, and beyond their means, of their own accord. According to their means and beyond their means. Okay,
We had a comment.
okay,
Yeah, I was,
good.
talking about the generosity and everything, that's a good reminder for us in this, like, when you think about it, it's, go back to Matthew 25, something like 34.
Okay,
When it said, then the king will say to those on his right, come to you who are blessed by my Father, and have the kingdom prepared for you for the foundation of the world. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. Naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison, you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or naked and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? Then the king will answer and say to them, truly I say to you, to the extent that you did it to one of these brothers of mine, even the least of them, you did it to me. So
Yeah, good.
that's a great example
that's a
of.
very great example.
Yep.
Very great example. Thank you for that. Okay, so how do you give and, what did it say? Beyond their means.
They gave
Grab
to-
that, folks.
They gave till it hurts, that's what we say today, give till it hurts. Really, the Lord never asked that, nobody's really asked us to do that, but
Sure.
they had that mentality.
not only were they in severe affliction, they were still giving beyond their means to help another church. That's what,
Extreme poverty.
yeah,
Extreme
it's
poverty.
just, probably put some of us to shame in what we give to the
We
Lord.
prefer to avoid that.
Well,
Jet.
I think that one big difference between us and our sort of current way this happens and back then was there was already a very well established share all things in common sort of practice among especially local churches. And like, that's, we are generous with one another, obviously,
Yeah.
but like they were like selling their land and dissolving their assets to just basically live communally. It was a much more extreme manifestation of that sharing all things in common. With that example, you can see why the Macedonian churches were sort of following along in that, because that was a practice at the time. They weren't doing anything like freakish or not ever before seen.
That's true.
The very first church group in Jerusalem, we're told in Acts, started right off doing stuff. And so that's, I think when it's normal and when there's a process for it, you'll see these kind of big acts. They didn't have to invent this, it was already a practice.
That's correct. Okay, go ahead.
Because they were doing without something.
That's the significance, I think,
They
do
were
it
doing
without.
That's when you know that a person's heart is right, when they do without to see that you got what you need.
I mean, it's easy to give out of our abundance, right? That's easy, that doesn't affect my next meal.
Right.
Doesn't affect my next meal for ever how much we got in the refrigerator, right?
Yeah, your frosted flakes are still gonna be crispy tomorrow whether you give or not, right?
Okay.
Could also just be saying that they gave more than the 10% that most Jews were expected at that time too. I don't know if it's that simple or if it's deeper, like we're saying, if they're going without. Obviously these were not, for the most part, probably weren't Jews. They were probably Greeks or Greek influence. But it's still Paul is the one writing it. So it could just be giving more than that 10% that
More than was expected, for sure.
is expected.
More
at
than-
least, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, just thinking about when the widow, when Christ sees the widow give her 2 coins to the treasury, you know, and he says that she gave more than all the others they had seen that day, but she gave out of her poverty. I
Yes.
don't know if that was 10% like we talked about, but whatever it was, God was counting it as greater because of the sacrifice that it meant to the person who gave.
and I think that's what we have here. It's a great sacrifice for what they gave.
The thing is, John, we have those scriptures that was read about the Matthew 25 and about the widow. We have those scriptures as examples.
Yes.
I kind of doubt if they had heard those stories. So they just did it out of their goodness of their heart. They were Christians. That's what Christians do.
Okay. Other comments? Thank you for the comments. Okay, verse 4, begging us earnestly for the favor of taking part in the relief of the saints. And this, not as we expected. So, I mean, these people are, I think they've exceeded what Paul was expecting. I mean, their lives could be impacted by this. Begging to participate in this giving.
I don't think it's hyperbole either. I think he was telling actually what happened.
Yes.
He wasn't blowing it out of
No.
proportion.
So they're extreme, they're giving a lot. They're giving a whole lot. Even not as we expected. And why?
Gave themselves to the Lord first.
Because they gave themselves first to the Lord. And by the will of God to us. So do we really, go ahead.
We need to apply that to the way we give. Do we beg earnestly for the favor of giving, or do we ask how much they want this time? You know, this is
It's a very good principle.
Yeah, this is, you know, especially maybe as Americans, we don't like to give up our money. You know, and this is a different attitude than sometimes we take.
Americans don't, I don't think the first century did either. Nobody wants to give up our money.
And they're giving up themselves.
Giving themselves,
More than to us, so that would imply their trade skills, their abilities, they're going all out for one another.
it's just like the widow, right? I mean, she gave it all. I'm giving all to the Lord. Please.
You give all, I mean, you can go beyond that, your time, the time that you give people.
Yes.
I mean, that's giving, that's sacrificing from what time you could have used for yourself.
It is very important. And that gets back to comfort. Or it could be, you know, fix my refrigerator. I mean, it could be any number of things, but just back to conflict others. Okay, so-
Thinking about giving ourselves to the Lord, if I haven't given myself to the Lord, then that decision of how much to give, a lot of times it's like, well, I want to have this for me, but how much should I not have for me? And it's like I have this wrestling match. But if everything I am already belongs to God, then it's just a decision of, okay, how can I best use this for God? I think it's just
How
because
can I best use the resources God has given me?
Yeah.
The Spirit, yeah. Okay.
Hey, Johnny, you said they gave freely,
Yes,
so it's a free will offering.
it is.
Okay, now, that's what we expect and that's what we do. But a lot of churches don't do that. Jane, when she was a little girl, went to a church down the street. And a few days later, the pastor, or whoever it was, came to the door and said, your daughter, talked to her dad, your daughter committed, made an oath, or she's gonna, and she didn't give that this month, or this week, or something like that. And her dad was furious, okay? And so I've talked to people, trying to invite them to congregation, to the church worship. I said, we have a free will offering. We don't ask people to give, a thing like that. But that's a practice, because the churches become dependent upon that income, and they want to make sure they get it every week, and so they get these cards.
Yeah. Make your pledge and you don't meet it, but you haven't behind the board or in the background.
No, he's back there.
Okay. Long time behind the board. We'll tell you. Okay. Okay, so he's basically telling the church of Corinth what the Macedonian church is doing. Okay.
Just one other thought on that verse 4.
Okay.
They're begging to take part in the relief of the saints, so there's a purpose for their giving. They're not just begging, can we please just get rid of our money? It's we want to help these particular people. We want to be a part of that particular work that's going on. I think that's important when we think about giving. Yes, we're giving to God, but we're giving to some kind of a cause that we think we're doing this for some particular need that we're trying to meet.
Yeah, I think, the ESV has the word relief. I think somewhere else I read fellowship.
Fellowship of the ministry to the saints, and that's, we say, when we put that thing up for the board, we give collection, we say ministry to the saints.
Yes.
Now, saints to a lot of people today is somebody that's dead and can perform 3 miracles, No, that's us, that's you and me.
If people don't need it, right?
No, we're saints.
We're the saints.
Yeah, we're the saints. We're the ones that been called out.
Okay, come on.
This also reminds me of, in a few chapters, Paul in 2 Corinthians 12:15 will talk about being spent and expended for the brethren. And this is a great example of that spending.
Okay.
Of expending yourself and giving your all.
There you go. Thank you. Okay. Okay, accordingly, verse 6, accordingly, we urge Titus that as he had started, so he should complete among you this act of grace. What are we talking about? What's he talking about? Somebody look at 1 Corinthians chapter 16, first 4 verses. Somebody read that. Let me get it. David, you got that?
Chapter 16.
First 4 verses.
Now concerning the collection of the saints, as I directed the churches of Galatia, so you also are to do. On the first day of every week, each of you is to put something aside and store it up, that he may as he may prosper, so that there will be no collection when I come. And when I arrive, I will send those whom you accredit by letter to carry your gift to Jerusalem. If it seems advisable that I should go also, they will accompany me.
Okay, so this is a follow-up to that. Follow-up to that expectation. To set aside each week something to give, okay? And again, he says, so he should complete among you this act of grace. So it comes back with this act of grace.
So is Titus carrying what the Macedonian church?
Not now,
gave
not now,
to-
not now. No, he didn't then. Not yet, not yet. That's in, that's on Sunday. Talks about that. That's on Sunday. Okay. All right, now he's giving them a pep talk. Verse 7, but as you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, and in all earnestness, and in our love for you. That's one person I wrote, that's typically where we stop. See that you excel in this act of grace also. Okay, so they excel in faith, speech, and knowledge. Those are probably spiritual gifts that were given to the Corinthian church. Speech and knowledge. What's another word for earnestness? In all earnestness.
Diligence.
Diligence, sincerity, and in our love for you.
Well, our version says, and in your love for us.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't, you know, it goes either way.
It does. I've read about that, I forgot about that, yeah. Some translations say for us, and some say the other love for you. See that you excel in this act of grace also. So what's the act of grace?
The collection.
The collection, being generous in your. So what does he expect? First of all, you notice it doesn't say he's commanding them, right? Everybody sees there's nothing that says he's commanding them to give 10% or whatever, right?
Well, the next verse says that.
So,
The next verse says, I'm not commanding you.
not commanding. So everybody sees that.
Earnestness is a deep conviction for a purpose. They intend with conviction that they're going to do this.
So another way to say that is be a sincere follower of God. Be part of the family of God. Where God is first. God is first. Serving Jesus is first in your mind. Clinton.
I like verse 8, the latter part says, but to prove by the earnestness of others that your love also is genuine.
Yes.
So is it doing it out of genuine, sincere love, or out of trying to follow the example of the Macedonians? A little bit of both, I think.
That's, we use the word pep talk. He's trying, Paul is very, he tells them I think here is trying to, well, actually, let's just go on. So verse 8, Denise.
Verse 7, he says, as you excel in everything, faith, speech, knowledge, earnestness. They've been blessed in these areas.
Very blessed.
And so when you're blessed, you feel more able to give, I think.
Yes.
And so he's saying, you've been blessed, so see that you pass these blessings on.
Okay. I'm sure that's part of the report that Titus brought back. Okay. Okay, verse 8, I say this not as a command, but to prove by the earnestness of others that your love also is genuine. Let me go ahead and read the rest of this. For you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sake he became poor, so that you by his poverty might become rich. And in this manner I give my judgment. This benefits you, who a year ago started not only to do this work, but also to desire to do it. So now finish doing it as well, so that your readiness and desiring it may be matched by your completing it out of what you have. Okay, let's stop there and look at that a little bit. So it says in verse 8, it's not a command, but to prove it by your earnestness. Another word for earnestness? Somebody?
Sincerity.
Sincerity? Okay. Of others, that your love also is genuine. So that's all these things, it gets back to love, right? All back to love. We have to love our brother that are in need, okay? Have to love that aren't in need too, but have to be
So do you love
generous to
God or
those that are
love,
in need.
do you love your brother, do you love God? Yeah, both.
Yeah.
Yeah, both.
And what's the example, the greatest example?
Christ.
Christ. For you know by the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ that though he was rich, how was he rich?
You want to talk about money?
Well,
Wasn't in this world, right?
yeah, he was God in heaven.
He
God
lived
in
with
heaven.
God. He was right next to God. What better place could you be?
Yep. Yet for your sake he became poor. So he came to this cruel world, a sinful world, so that you, by his poverty, might become rich. How are we rich?
Grace and mercy.
Grace and mercy.
In his son.
The heavenly home, right?
Right.
That's how we're rich. Which gets back to, in essence, the same as this. So they're rich in their generosity, wealth in their generosity. Other comments? Philip?
Paul's just so good at tying everything back to Christ. Just over and over again in all of his letters, he just keeps tying us back to look at what Christ did. And it's just so neat the way he shows Jesus' example of dying on the cross as being something we can apply to helping somebody in need. That it's living out the exact same thing. Not that our love is anywhere as great as his, but we're living out that same example.
Again, Christ is the ultimate example, right? He gave his all for us. Whatever. Okay. And again, like to say what you're Paul, again, it's not about Paul, right? It's not about Paul. It's about who sent him. It's about Christ.
John, in verse 10, it kind of says that it's kind of, we're like this. This is the way human beings are.
Yeah.
They say, here's a great opportunity for you. It's a great, we're all for it. Then a year later, I took that money. And they forget about it.
Yeah.
Say, yeah, you made a promise. You want to do it. Now's your chance. And it's a year later. But but you still got to do it. The Old Testament says it's better not to make a vow than to vow not pay.
Yeah. Okay. How does it benefit? Well, how does it benefit them? Verse 10. How does it benefit them? How does it benefit the Corinthian church to do this?
Well, I think that Matthew 25 is a good idea.
Very much so.
Yeah.
How does it benefit them? Shows their generosity. It proves their generosity. Giving feels good, folks. To help somebody, it should feel good to us to be able to help somebody. That should be positive. It should feel good.
I think he's convincing them or urging them to finish the work they started back in 1 Corinthians 16.
Yes.
They had promised, but apparently, for whatever reason, they had lacked to do it. Now he's encouraging them to do it, to get this
Finish it.
collection together, finish it.
Let's do it. The time is now.
It's benefit you.
And you think about it, we've studied all their problems, all their false teachers, the influences. So it'd be kind of shocking if they'd been as persistent as they intended in 1 Corinthians chapter 16. Okay.
From some extracurricular, extra biblical sources, there was the folks in Macedonia had endured a little civil war up there. There had been burdens of taxes. In fact, they appealed to Caesar and had their taxes reduced for a short period. So they were in dark poverty.
Okay.
And that's what Paul referring to.
That's their history or their
We
background.
know Philippi is the chief city of Macedonia, and Paul was in love with that church in Philippi.
Okay, verse 11. So now finish doing it as well, so that your readiness and desiring it may be matched by your completing it out of what you have. So again, he's urging them that it's time, folks. Y'all need to start doing this and basically get the collection ready for when people come to collect it, to take it to Jerusalem. For if the readiness is there, verse 12, it is acceptable to what it, for if the readiness is there, it is acceptable according to what a person has, not according to what he does not have. What's the, for I do not mean that others should be eased and you burdened, but that as a matter of fairness. Okay, so what's Paul saying? How much should they give? How much is he asking them to give?
He's not putting a number to it.
That's right.
And he says, you don't have to give what you don't have.
That's right.
And it's like in Matthew chapter 5, Ananias and Sapphira, you know, they said they gave more than they did.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have to do that.
That's true.
And he said, it was still yours, you can do whatever you want to. You can give however much you want. And so this is kind of the same thing. He says, we're not asking you to give until it hurts. Just giving you what you got.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
As you've been prospered, right?
As you've been prospered.
Right.
Okay. But not according to what you do not have. Okay. For I do not mean that others should be eased and you burdened, but that a matter of fairness. So here he's saying that you're going to ease their burden in the Jerusalem, but not to the point to where you're a burden to other people, to other Christians. Not what it's about. It's about giving to them for their needs, but not to the point that you become a burden yourself. What's on that? But that a matter of fairness. Your abundance at the present time should supply their needs, so that their abundance may supply your need, that there may be fairness. So what's this an example of? Or what is this? So your abundance.
One thing they get out of this is the attitude is paramount.
Yes.
It does not benefit you if you're grinding your teeth while you give your money. I mean, you have to give it willingly and want to help these people.
That's right. You have to want to do it.
I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I have a tendency to stockpile too. I want to have X in my savings amount. I want to have X food in my pantry. I want to have X ammunition for my weapon, you know, all those sorts
Sure,
of things.
sure.
Like,
Abundance.
you wanna have those things built up behind, you wanna have, and this is like, if we have something that others can use, let them use it.
Use it.
There will be others to give to you if the time is needed,
That's
so if there's a stockpile, let others have that stockpile of whatever it is. They might have better use for it at the time.
Though, I mean, immediate needs
Yep.
trump stockpiles of.
So if you have one cloak, you have two cloaks to give to the guy who doesn't have it.
Sure, Kenny.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the fairness. We may not be repaid in physical sense, like we may not get back whatever we give to someone else, but it's like when Christ told the rich young man, give what you have and sell it to the poor, you'll have treasures in heaven, right? And then he went away unhappy because he didn't want to give away what he had now. So he totally misses out on the most important thing. He totally misses out on, I guess, that fairness, which would be that he's repaid with spiritual blessings.
That's right. Another good example. And
Yeah, with comparing them to the Macedonians who gave way of what they actually needed, they gave that.
yeah,
And the Macedonian, and those here in Corinth, have more than they
yeah,
need.
everybody, yeah.
And they weren't giving that.
Yeah.
He was encouraging them to do it because you
Encouraging
have more
them.
than you need, and that'll be enough to help these people.
Paul doesn't go into it too much here, but think of how the Christians in Jerusalem feel when they get this gift from all these churches in the Greek world. Yeah, Gentiles. And they're sending them gifts to help them out. I mean, just think of how that, they can get through the hard times much better because
Oh, yeah.
they know that these people have helped them.
They talk about world peace.
What a concept, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, world peace.
Especially when just years before, there was a separation between Greeks and Jews. Now they're acting like one people because of Christ.
Yes. That's never been done before, right? Okay, the last verse, as it is written, whoever gathers much had nothing left over, and whoever gathered little had no lack. That's in reference to, that's in Exodus chapter 16. That's in reference to basically having manna and things to eat when they left. Now, how God provides for them. So thanks for your comment, appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
He's asking.